These Disney World restaurants are seriously stressing me out, y'all. What will the fate of our favorite or even not so favorite places to eat around the most magical place on earth actually be? Let's discuss the details today here on DFB Guide. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. So you know me, I love my Disney restaurants. So when there's something that feels a little off with one or many of them, my little red blinking light in my head starts to go off, warning me that potential changes or upsets may be on the horizon. So today we're going to talk about which Disney World restaurants are triggering that warning light for me and how you can keep any potential Disney restaurant mishaps from ruining your vacation dining experiences. I know a lot of you have reached out to me via email to ask, what about this restaurant? What about that restaurant? What's going to happen here? So this is the video where we're going to answer all of those questions and give you all the updates we've got so far. To start this video off on a high note, we do have a list of our top 10 restaurants around Disney World property that we're ready to send your way for free. So if you'd like to see our personal Disney World restaurant favorites ranked in all 4 parks and inside Disney Springs Shopping District, make sure to scan the QR code you see on the screen now or head to disneyfoodblog.com/top restaurants after this. So let's start with the ones that we are worried maybe won't reopen. Ever since those COVID closures of 2020, we've seen Disney dining slowly but surely creeping back into the Disney scene for the past 3 years. But not every Disney restaurant has reopened their doors quite yet. Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, for example, has yet to reopen their old character buffet, 1900 Park Fare, which once upon a time used to give guests a chance to visit with Mary Poppins, Alice in Wonderland characters, and the Cinderella family with Lady Tremaine and the Ugly Stepsisters and Prince Charming included. Not only that, but the Grand Floridian's afternoon tea service, which used to take place in the Garden View Tea Room, has been postponed for the last 3 years with no word on when or if it's going to return. Fortunately, Disney's Grand Floridian isn't hurting for dining experiences since they still have the Grand Floridian Cafe, Gasparilla Island Grill, Citrico's, Narcoossee's just got that new revamp, Enchanted Rose Lounge is there, and Victoria and Albert's for guests to enjoy while they're there. They're also the only resort to offer in-room dining services right now, since all other in-room dining has been suspended resort-wide since the 2020 closures as well. So when it comes to those 2 restaurants, 1900 Park Fare and the Garden View Tea Room, we really don't have any information. Disney hasn't announced anything, but what we do know is that there will be afternoon tea coming to the Cake Bake Shop, which is going to be over there by the boardwalk. So there will be an afternoon tea option coming back to Walt Disney World, but I'm not sure what's going to happen over there at the Garden View Tea Room. Grand Floridian has also been undergoing a lot of renovations. You know, they're renovating all their rooms to be Mary Poppins themed, and they're going to be renovating the lobby, and maybe the Garden View Tea Room will get a reno there too. Maybe they'll open it after that. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but maybe with all these renovations going on, that's kind of the game plan for those 2 restaurants. Now, in Epcot, we've seen several new restaurants open up around the park very recently. Space 220, La Crêperie de Paris, Connections Eatery and Cafe, Shiki Sai, Sushi Izakaya, those are all open now, and they have all opened since the COVID closures. So they're brand new restaurants that are giving you new places to dine in Epcot. But 2 of our past favorite places in the World Showcase, Restaurant Marrakesh and Tangerine Cafe, both inside the Morocco Pavilion, have not reopened since the COVID closures. Now, a big reason for this was because of the change in leadership the Morocco Pavilion experienced at the end of 2020. Maybe I should say ownership. Originally, the Kingdom of Morocco actually funded and designed and oversaw the creation of their country's pavilion inside Epcot. And ever since, the pavilion's restaurants, stores, and exhibits have been overseen by an independent operating participant, not by Disney directly. But after a mutual agreement, Disney assumed all operational control over the pavilion. So what's Disney going to do with this area next? Well, the future is pretty hazy. Tangerine Cafe regularly serves as a festival location, so you can still technically eat here, but not in the traditional sense. It does open for the festivals. Usually the menu is pretty similar each festival, so heads up on that. But Restaurant Marrakesh will every now and then open its doors to serve as a rest area for guests. It's been a specialty lounge. But other than the occasional complimentary refreshment, this once hip happening food stop is pretty quiet. That being said, there is one restaurant that did reopen in the Morocco Pavilion, and that's Spice Road Table, a Mediterranean-themed table service set right next to the World Showcase Lagoon that serves tapas and unique cocktails. You can also pick up a pastry or specialty drink on the go over at Oasis Sweets and Sips, which is only separated from Spice Road Table by a little merchandise shop smack dab in the middle of the 2 locations. So, big question. How will you figure out if or when these restaurants reopen or if they're closed for good? You can join the DFB newsletter for free. We'll send those updates straight to your email when we hear about them. I will link that newsletter sign-up page down in the description below, and there's zero risk for joining. It's totally free, and you can unsubscribe from the email list at any time, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. That's okay. Okay, here are some restaurants that we're worried might change. So some Disney World restaurants are just fine the way they are, thank you very much, but that doesn't mean Disney won't change the menus up later on down the line, no matter how much we protest. Take Diamond Horseshoe over at Magic Kingdom, for instance. So in the past, Diamond Horseshoe served up a pretty mid to bland barbecue over in Frontierland, but now this restaurant serves the same family-style Thanksgiving-like feast that Liberty Tree Tavern serves in Liberty Square. That restaurant is like one of my very favorite places in Magic Kingdom. And if Liberty Tree Tavern is overflowing with guests for lunch or dinner, then cast members will send guests over to the Diamond Horseshoe dining room instead. Now the theming is different, patriotism versus Western Saloon, but the platters of roasted turkey and pot roast, oven roasted pork, mashed potatoes, seasonal vegetables, stuffing, house-made mac and cheese, and that ooey gooey toffee cake that I love so much is literally the exact same thing. Now, I don't know whether Disney will permanently keep the Diamond Horseshoe and Liberty Tree Tavern menus the same across the board. They do share the same kitchen, but I really hope that they do keep it the same, especially since there are so many better barbecue places in Disney anyway, like Polite Pig and Flame Tree Barbecue and Regal Eagle Smokehouse and Roundup Rodeo. So fingers crossed that Diamond Horseshoe will keep serving the same meal so that there's that many more tables where you can sit to get that great food. Now, many Disney World kiosks and carts change up pretty regularly, like the Adventureland Spring Roll cart in Magic Kingdom. Now, part of the Spring Roll cart's charm is the fact that they're constantly providing new and seasonal flavors for us to try each time we visit. In the past, we've tried those varieties like bacon mac and cheese, pepperoni pizza, Cuban sandwich, buffalo chicken, like so many flavors. But that doesn't mean our excitement to try something new isn't sometimes overshadowed by our sadness to see a new favorite flavor disappear. Do y'all remember the 50th anniversary spring roll flavor with the pastrami and pepper jack cheese? When that left the cart post 50th celebration, a lot of the DFB team was pretty bummed. But now there's a new flavor in its place. It's basically a chicken cordon bleu spring roll, and it's not as good as the pastrami in our opinion, but it might be a better option for choosier eaters or for those who love a mean cordon bleu. And as for the traditional cheeseburger spring rolls that tend to be the staple at this cart, we love them. Every single time we love them, and we hope they don't switch out in the future, though it wouldn't shock us if they did. All right, let's talk Fairfax Fair over in Hollywood Studios. Now, this spot is part of Sunset Ranch Market, and y'all know how I feel about Sunset Ranch Market. It's not my favorite. And Fairfax Fair does see its fair share of menu updates, but the last one they had, we're just hoping it will stay forever, because after years and years of this kiosk being somewhat overlooked, it's now one of our go-to places for a savory snack. Currently, Fairfax Fair is serving up savory waffle bowls stuffed with creamy mashed potatoes and different meats like barbecue beef brisket, buffalo chicken, and Korean barbecue pork belly. Hello, anytime I can get pork belly in a theme park, I'm gonna get it. Now, there's also a plant-based soba noodle bowl too with edamame and red cabbage and red peppers and shredded carrots and celery and green onions. So much healthy stuff. Now, before these waffle bowls showed up, Fairfax Fair did have a unique assortment of hot dogs, but if you're missing those, hit up Dockside Diner over in Echo Lake because the dogs have been rehoused over there. But fingers crossed they don't change that Fairfax Fair menu too much going forward. I think, Disney, that we've really hit on something great here. All right, what are some more things we can worry about restaurants, huh? I don't know about you, but my anxiety is very high as a general rule, so I'm always worried about restaurants. Let's talk about if you're worried about reservations, getting reservations for the restaurants you love. Currently in Disney World, the 4 most popular table service restaurants with the hardest to get reservations are Sci-Fi Dine-In at Hollywood Studios, Chef Mickey's at Contemporary, Cinderella's Royal Table at Magic Kingdom, and Space 220 in Epcot. Now, those change up every once in a while, but those are always tough ones to get. More often than not, when reservations for these restaurants go live, they'll book up shortly after. So how can you keep from worrying about these reservations and spend more time actually booking them? Well, we've got some tips to help you out. Tip number 1, familiarize yourself with the most recent advanced dining reservation change. Not too long ago, Disney switched up the way you can make dining reservations for the better. Back in ye old days, like a month ago, you'd only ever be able to see a few reservation times pop up when you searched for specific lunch or dinner availability. Then you might see other times pop up if you searched for reservations specifically around 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or like a specific time. But this is not the case anymore. Now you can see all the available dinner reservations all at once. No extra searching required. But here's the catch. You need to select the all-day option when the restaurant search bar asks what dining time frame you're looking for. That's when all the remaining reservation times will be presented to you all at once. Tip number 2, become an early bird. You can start making advanced dining reservations at most Disney World restaurants up to 60 days before you plan to eat there. But let's take that one step further. If you're staying at a Disney World resort hotel, these 60 days out advanced dining reservations will actually let you make reservations for your entire stay for up to 10 days of your trip. So 60 days before the first day of your stay, you can make reservations for the whole trip, even for days that are more than 60 days out. But let's take that one more step further. Those advanced dining reservations go live starting at 6 a.m. Eastern, but often Disney will open up that system even earlier, maybe 5:30 a.m. on some mornings. This definitely means you're going to have to hit the espresso hard that day, but if you can get up and around to book reservations right when they go live, then you'll have a higher chance of guaranteeing tables at these hard-to-get locations. Tip number 3, don't give up. If at first you don't succeed, try again. That works in Disney World almost all the time. Just because you missed your dream reservation at that 60-day window doesn't mean you won't find it at all. Keep checking on Disney World's website or the My Disney Experience app until the very last minute, because cancellations happen all the time, meaning reservations go back up on the site all the time. And who knows, you might just be able to find a last-minute reservation on the day of your visit for one of these restaurants too. Check the dining tip board on your My Disney Experience app for any last-minute openings or a virtual walk-up waitlist that you can put your name on. And don't be afraid to check in with the host stand at the restaurant too, because the restaurant hosts might know about a walk-up waitlist or last-minute cancellation that not even the app has been updated with yet. Always worth a shot. Now, this next one is a biggie because I can't tell you how many times a restaurant or a dining experience could be ruined because it didn't live up to your expectations. So this section of the video is for those of us who are worried that this dream come true situation is not going to live up to what we were hoping. There's nothing worse than planning and saving for a trip for years and years and years, finally going, and then having something that you've been looking forward to for such a long time just kind of fall flat. So here are a few situations where that has happened in the past, and I want to warn you about it. Restaurants like Be Our Guest Restaurant in Magic Kingdom, Space 220 in Epcot, T-Rex in Disney Springs, and Rainforest Cafe in Disney Springs and Animal Kingdom have really awesome vibes. I mean, a full castle straight out of Beauty and the Beast, a Stellavator up to the Centauri space station, dinner among animatronic animals. Like, how could these meals not be everything you hoped and dreamed for? However, we've had more okay meals at these locations rather than mind-blowing ones. And if you're more about the atmosphere and Imagineering, then an okay meal in a cool dining room might still be worth the price you're paying. But for those who expect great food along with those steep prices, you might be better off making reservations at themed restaurants with consistently better food offerings like Skipper Canteen in Magic Kingdom, Sanaa, Disney's Animal Kingdom, or Homecoming in Disney Springs. But I get it, eating in the castle is a must-do thing, so just temper your expectations a little bit on that food quality. It's still going to be good. It's going to be fine. But is it going to be like $100 worth fine? Maybe not. So how about character dining when it comes to this whole not living up to expectations situation, right? Well, there are some character meals that we adore, like Garden Grill in Epcot, Topolino's Terrace for breakfast at Riviera Resort. It's important to note that not every kiddo, though, is going to be stoked out of their minds to meet characters at Disney. So what should have been a really fun and memorable dining experience might turn into a kind of traumatic one. Remember, you know your kid better than anyone, and any of those fears that your kid has back home aren't going to magically go away when they enter the parks. Actually, they could be amplified since there's a whole lot of overstimulating stuff coming at them for days on end in Disney. So go out to restaurants with your kids, take them to local parades going on in your area to see how they respond to characters out in the wild. Don't simply rely on the idea that just because your kids enjoy seeing these characters on TV, they'll enjoy seeing them towering over their table during a meal. So let me hit you with the biggest takeaway on this point. Just because one person has a really good or really bad experience experience with a restaurant doesn't mean it'll be a universal experience year after year. That's why the DFB team and I are constantly revisiting restaurants and posting the most recent reviews for you. Because just because we love something for years doesn't mean it can't throw us a disappointing curveball and vice versa. This has happened with a couple of restaurants this year. Things that I used to love have changed menus or changed experiences, and now I don't recommend them anymore. So even if your neighbor really loved his experience at San Angel Inn Restaurante back when he visited Epcot in 2015, that doesn't mean the service and menu haven't changed over the past few years. So for the most updated look at every restaurant on Disney World property in one central location, check out our 2023 DFB Guide to Walt Disney World Dining at the dfbstore.com website, because that's where we take a deep dive into all the latest Disney Dining 411 with reviews and budgeting tips and snack hacks and all of our recommendations. And that recommendations chapter is really, really long, and I apologize for that, but I have a lot of recommendations. Okay, this next one is for my fellow anxiety warriors. Maybe you're worried about finding a seat at a counter service restaurant, because I'll tell you what, Disney World's counter service, that means fast food restaurants, get really, really busy really, really fast during those typical dining times. And I can remember literally having to sit with some random family because it was the only empty seat anywhere when I was at Backlot Express once, because I had my tray with food and I had to eat something and I had to sit somewhere, and it was raining. There's nowhere to sit on the ground. Anyway, it was weird and it was uncomfortable. So you might be worried about finding a seat. And even if you did mobile order your food on the My Disney Experience app ahead of time to bypass that lengthy line, you're still caught wandering the dining room looking for a place to sit and coming up dry. So instead of eating at Disney quick service locations during those prime lunch and dinner times like 11 to 1:30 or 5 to 6 p.m., try to hit them up for a late lunch or an early dinner, right in that 2 to 4 p.m. sweet spot for a better chance at finding an open table and just way less overcrowding in general. Many quick service locations also have fewer crowds toward the end of the night, like an hour before the restaurant wraps up for the day, but always check on a restaurant's hours beforehand. Disney restaurants don't necessarily stay open as long as the park does, and each Disney restaurant has slightly different hours. So even if one quick service stays open until the very end of the park day, that doesn't mean they all will. And if you really don't think you can wait any longer to eat and you need to eat something even in the midst of a lunch-dinner rush, try tracking down a quick service location with a lot of seating. For example, in Magic Kingdom, Pinocchio Village House, and Pecos Bill Tall Tale Inn and Cafe, those can accommodate a lot of guests at one time. Same thing goes for Connections Cafe and Eatery and Sunshine Seasons over in Epcot. If you're visiting Animal Kingdom, then Restaurantosaurus and Satuli Canteen can hold hundreds of guests in a single go, and ABC Commissary and Backlot Express and Hollywood Studios have dining rooms that welcome lots of hungry folks, no matter what time of day it is. Even though, like I said, I still couldn't find a seat, and it was probably about 12:30, so I know really bad timing. Like I said, I always make these mistakes so that I can tell you about them, but unless you're really comfortable sitting on the ground or getting cozy with some random family, eat it at off time. Okay, next, maybe you're worried about germs. Everybody knows that Disney World is like a giant petri dish, and if you're gonna get sick, you're probably gonna get sick there. Listen, Disney does a great job of keeping their restaurants very, very clean, but no matter how much they sanitize, they can't control the actions of other guests. So the sanitation problems that might stress you out at a Disney buffet are gonna be the same problems that stress you out at any other buffet that's ever existed ever. Kids might grab hold of the serving spoon on the wrong end, Grandpa Joe might forget to turn his head when he sneezes, the lady in front of you is gonna pick up an item and then decide to put it back again. If buffets tend to freak you out because you can't stand the thought of a stranger's bare hands potentially touching the food you're about to put on your plate, then you might be better off steering clear from the buffets altogether. However, if your group does want to try one of these buffets, because several of them really do have some awesome eats, like Boma at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, Crystal Palace at Magic Kingdom's real good, and they have those churro Mickey waffles, which are awesome, then you might want to try booking a reservation either as early as possible for the first available breakfast time slot, or right when the buffet switches over to lunch at 11 a.m. so you can line up for the fresh, untouched food ASAP. Now, I know some of you think that I'm just bonkers for talking about this, but some of you don't, and that's who I'm talking to. You know who you are. Yeah, this is why we're friends. And the next thing you might be worried about, Allergies. This can be a serious concern and worry for people who are going to Disney World. Being apprehensive about the Disney restaurants can be more serious than just a menu change. Lots of guests are going to worry about making reservations somewhere or eating at a quick service location on the fly because of specific allergy concerns. Now, over the years, Disney has improved their allergy-friendly accommodations tenfold, but that doesn't mean the concerns aren't still there. While many Disney kitchens have allergy-friendly fryers and work their best to prevent cross-contamination, a 100% allergy-free dining experience isn't always guaranteed since most Disney restaurants don't have a completely separate kitchen to prep their allergy-friendly meals in. So if you have, say, a major shellfish allergy, it might be best to avoid seafood-heavy restaurants like Columbia Harbor House in Magic Kingdom or Coral Reef Restaurant in Epcot just to be on the safe side. The nice thing about Disney restaurants nowadays is that most all allergy-friendly options are listed directly on those online menus via the Disney website and My Disney Experience app, so you can actually track down safe eats before your vacation. But even with the online listings, some allergy-friendly items aren't always obvious. For example, Casey's Corner has gluten-free hot dog buns, though they aren't directly advertised online or on the menu. And while many of the third-party Disney restaurants that you'll find around Disney Springs don't all have their allergy-friendly options as easy to track down online, you can ask to see an allergy-friendly menu when you arrive at the restaurant to find a full list of offerings. Festival booths around Epcot also aren't as straightforward about their allergy-friendly options, but you can always request to talk with a chef or look at the booth's specific allergy binder to read over the exact ingredients used to make each item. Allergy binders are also available for you to read over at any of the other permanent quick service locations around the parks too. But the best thing you can do for you and your family is to note any allergy concerns while making reservations for any Disney World restaurant, third party or not, directly on the reservation itself. And just to make absolutely sure your server knows that you need special dining accommodation, go ahead and remind them at the very beginning of your meal. They should ask, they usually do, but if they don't, you can remind them before your drink order's taken so that you can have the opportunity to talk to one of the allergy specialists on site or one of the kitchen chefs and have them walk through the menu with you to see your dining options. And another thing to worry about with Disney restaurants are those cancellation policies. For the most part, Disney's no-show and cancellation policies are the same across the board. If you don't cancel at least 2 hours before your reservation time and you don't show up to the restaurant at the time you scheduled for, then you'll have to pay a $10 penalty per person for your missed reservation. And that stings as is, but it could be worse, much worse, which is illustrated through Disney's high-end restaurants that you have to pay for in advance. Take Cinderella's Royal Table in Magic Kingdom and Hoop-Dee-Doo Musical Review in Disney's Fort Wilderness. Both of these restaurants require a full payment at the time of booking, but if you need to cancel them for whatever reason, you need to do so as soon as possible to get your full refund. Because if you don't cancel your Cinderella's Royal Table seat before that 2-hour window leading up to your reservation, then you're not going to just be worrying about a $10 no-show fee. You'll be charged for the full experience without getting the chance to eat there, so that's hundreds of dollars down the drain. And hoop-de-doo, that full charge will impact you even sooner. Instead of a 2 hours out window, you'll need to cancel your table for this dinner show more than 24 hours before your book time. And then there's the real ritzy restaurants cancellation policies like Victoria and Albert's at Grand Floridian and Monsieur Paul at Epcot and Takumi Tay, also in Epcot. All three of these restaurants are going to charge you $100 per person as a no-show fee if you don't cancel your table in time for that full refund. Each restaurant has a different time frame you'll need to make those cancellations by to avoid paying that steep price for a whole lot of nothing. Victoria and Albert's has the least amount of wiggle room, requiring you to cancel 5 days in advance to avoid that $100 per person charge. Monsieur Paul asks that you make any cancellations 72 hours before your reservation to avoid unwanted no-show fees, and Takumi Tay requires you to make all cancellations and changes at least 48 hours before the day you were supposed to dine there. Whew, okay. Are there any other restaurants you're worried to book for your upcoming Disney World vacation that we didn't cover today? Don't be. The DFB team will always be here to provide you with the latest news and Disney dining updates, so you don't have to be caught off guard about any Disney restaurants you encounter on your trip. Hakuna Matata, right? And remember, we got a top 10 Disney World restaurants guide just waiting to send your way. All you got to do is head to disneyfoodblog.com/top restaurants, give us your name and email, we'll drop that full list in your inbox right away, and it's totally free. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.